We rarely get an opportunity like this. The Duke basketball team is going to play a non-conference game in late February. What in the world is up with this? It's going to be super strange. Duke has a hold of the lead in the ACC, but now it's time to focus on a non-conference contest against Illinois. Let's break it all down today on Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. So excited to have you here with us today on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, bring you all the news that you need to know regarding this Duke basketball team. A win earlier in the week over Virginia, and now Duke's got a February non-conference game. We're not used to things like this, but they'll be playing in Madison Square Garden against Illinois. So who better to talk about this with than our good pal Brian Horace. He's at Duke Blogger on social media, and he's going to join us for the course of today's show. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcast. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly there on the Apple Podcast platform. Those 5-star ratings do so much for the algorithm. And then also make sure that you watch us each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends. Really do appreciate all the support that you give us within Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, let's bring him on into the program. The aforementioned Brian Horace is here once again. Brian, how are you, pal?
Good, man. How you doing?
Very well. Thank you for asking. Excited to talk about the Duke basketball team and the run that they've been on. And here's the big story. Now we're getting set for a strange kind of non-conference game that'll be on the schedule. We knew about this well before the season started. And at the time you received the news, the conversation is like, that is odd that we're in the heart of ACC play. And now here comes up a non-conference game. Oh, it'll take a while to get here in the season. Well, now it's finally here.
Yeah, it was. I know it happened because they wanted to schedule it a lot earlier, but it just didn't fit, with what Duke already had. It was a sort of a later game that came on, and this was the only time really to do it. And I think it's coming at exactly the right time to get people excited about, going into March. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game to play out. And Duke, of course, loves when they get the chance to play their games inside Madison Square Garden. So many big-time memories that we've had there over the years. And Illinois, a team that's had a bit of an up-and-down season. The metrics like them a whole lot more than maybe your eye test might say at times, than maybe their overall record might indicate at times. And so this is the type of tournament team that Duke could see once they get to the NCAA tournament. Do you feel like that is a big reason why a game like this could be a good thing on the schedule?
Yeah, definitely. I think, Illinois gets a lot of, flack because they're in the Big Ten and they're going to take a lot more losses than Duke. But I think they match up fairly well with the Blue Devils. And, with who they have on that roster, it's going to be a fight.
The way that everybody is clicking right now on the Duke roster, it makes me feel good about the fight that Duke's going to be able to deliver. I mean, we've obviously been impressed by what Cooper Flagg has done throughout the course of the season. Another big Con Knippel game earlier in the week against Virginia. And then Isaiah Evans, once again, he's hot and cold sometimes. And sometimes it's not even that he's cold. It's just that he's not getting the shot attempts that he needs. But what a performance that he had against Virginia.
Oh, without a doubt, he was locked in. He was on, and for me, more impressive than his 5 for 6 from 3-point range was that he was defending. He had 2 block shots. That's not something that we normally see out of him, and so, and I think Shire mentioned that in the post game. That's what he was most proud of, is his evolution as a defender, and I think that is going to keep him in that rotation going forward for sure.
Yeah, and you think about the block shots defensively. I think about the 5 3-pointers. He had a tough finish at the end of the game. And then also, keep in mind, in both the first half and the second half, Isaiah Evans is somebody who's going to play in the NBA at the next level. That's very clear when you look at his body type and his shooting ability. If he was already in the NBA, he would have had 2 more buckets, Brian, because there was a continuation, and he finished both of them with kind of tough finishes through the contact.
It's one of those things where you hope college basketball, evolves and ends up, adopting some of those NBA rules, but makes the game more exciting,
Yeah, it absolutely does when you're able to add to the scoring totals and that sort of thing. So 80 points on the night for Duke in their win over UVA. I think the front court is definitely now something that's going to be watched very closely, because we now know the news that Maliq Brown did dislocate his shoulder in the game against Virginia. John Scheider has said he will not play in the game on Saturday at Madison Square Garden. But beyond that, things are still kind of TBD. What does that mean for Duke? Or even first, kind of speak to the injury to Maliq Brown and the impact.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't really know how long he's going to be out. With a dislocation like that, it could be a game, it could be 3 games, it could be 3 weeks. It's just hard to tell. I mean, I think they grade those on a scale of, severity. So a lot's going to depend on how he responds to treatment. But what it means for Duke going forward is more minutes, for Patrick Ngongba, who is coming along. And I think, with Maliq's injury earlier in the season, I think Ngongba knows now that he has to be ready, and he's delivered. He delivered in the last game, and I think, sure, it changes Duke defensively, but I think it does add something offensively. So I 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other.
For sure. I mean, with Ngongba having 6 points in the game against Virginia, Maliq Brown only got the 1 bucket on a nice putback dunk that he had in the game. I hate it that the injury took place, because he grew up in Culpeper. It's an hour away from Charlottesville. He had a lot of family there in attendance. That when you hear those things, it just kind of stings a little bit more for the guy.
Yeah, for sure. It's I'm sure it's a game he had circled on his calendar. One of those things that, he wanted to show, what he's been doing in Durham, and to get to do it in front of your family and friends is awesome. And it just really sucks for him. But, hopefully, in the long run, he'll be back. He'll be healthy and ready for the stretch run.
Yeah, it's the nature of the beast in a contact sport like this, for sure. So Duke now continues to get set for Illinois, a big test coming up on Saturday, and Cooper Flagg continues to lead the way for the Blue Devils. We'll step aside and tell you a little bit more about Flagg's performances as of late when Locked On Blue Devils returns. All right, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes are dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting and wondering and worrying if you were ever going to get any money back. Now Taxes is easily uploading your form to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique taxes situation. An expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. And while they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back, guaranteed. While you go about your day, no stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. A proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, continuing forward here on the show today, Brian Horace is here at Duke Blogger. We're talking about the Duke basketball win over Virginia and getting set for a game against Illinois coming up this weekend. And how about the play of Cooper Flagg as of late? We've got his numbers up from the game that he had against Virginia. Just your ho-hum casual every day, 17 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. He did everything.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why the pros love him. I mean, he's a guy that's, can affect the game many ways, scoring obviously one of them, but he is also, when he's on the court, he's going to be the fiercest competitor there is, and he's going to get you the assists, the rebounds, the blocked shots, the effort. He has the skills of a superstar, but the effort of like a 3-and-D guy that's, going to give you that extra oomph that your team needs. And I think that's what his best quality is his competitiveness.
Yeah, he doesn't let off any play. He's always getting after it. He's always trying to make winning plays on both the offensive and defensive side of the floor. When his shots aren't falling, he's still giving you 100% effort on the defensive end. I think that's what's so intriguing is just that ability, knowing you're the best player and yet still wanting to play like you're not, wanting to play like you've got something to prove. And to me, it feels like that's what Cooper Flagg does when he steps on the floor.
Yeah, I completely agree. He is a guy that is completely locked in on whatever it takes to win. And that's what you love. I think Chris Carrawell said it best. He's a beast. And I think that is one of those things that not every player has. I mean, there's talent all around the league, all around college basketball, but there isn't necessarily that guy on your team that's going to give you everything and not just, on one side of the ball. It's going to give it to you on every side of the ball.
For the wins over Cal and Stanford, Cooper Flagg was given his 10th ACC Rookie of the Week award, given to the best freshman within the conference. So this Virginia game counts towards his running in case for the next one that's going to be given out. We'll see how he fares against Illinois. 11 is the record, and with a few weeks left in the season, it feels like Cooper Flagg can tie and maybe even have the record on his own.
They may need to rename it.
That's a good point.
The Cooper Flagg, Rookie of the Year, Rookie of the Week, Player of the Week. I mean, he's definitely I don't think there's any way he doesn't get it with how he's playing.
Right. I was about to say, you do agree that a game like this against Virginia is a good case?
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay. Excited to see what Cooper Flagg can continue to do, leading the way for this Duke team. Obviously, more and more teams are going to bring their focus towards him, and the competition will stiffen up. I think this is a game that's going to be televised on Fox against Illinois, so a lot of people in the national broadcast audience will get the chance to be tuned in to the likely number one overall pick, and it's going to be up to Cooper Flagg once again to kind of set the tone for Duke. How do you expect him to do that? What has he been doing that you've noticed that kind of gets Cooper into a rhythm in these games?
I think him being able to bring the ball up, almost as like a point forward, being able to survey the defense, make reads, get other guys involved. I think that's what gets him going, and I think that's what gets the offense going. I think, he is a guy, especially for his age, to be able to read defenses as well as he does and react, and make the right play. That's not something everybody has at this level, especially as young as he is. So I think that's the big thing for him, is just being able to read and react well and quickly.
Yeah, he does it very well, and I'm excited that we've got him for the rest of this season. We'll see what happens next year when Duke's got to regroup and reload. I know people are kind of trying to run away with the athletic story where there's a quote in there from Cooper Flagg saying that he wants to come back, and they're not necessarily looking at the whole context of everything. We can dream, though, Brian, right? I mean, that would be really special to think about if we had more than just the last few games here this season.
We can dream. I mean, Zion said he wanted to come back. Tatum said he, really
noticing a theme.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, they take really good care of you. You get to hang out with your friends 24/7, go on cool road trips. It's less like a job in college. So of course, if you had the option to stay and turn down, if you weren't getting paid millions of dollars to go elsewhere, who wouldn't want to stay?
Well, now in the spirit of college athletics in 2025, they are kind of compensated handsomely when you play for a program like Duke in a school like that. So Cooper Flagg, an outlier here because the money earned at the NBA is still nowhere near what Duke would be able to offer. But maybe in years to come, players who are getting kind of the opportunity to leave after a year might reconsider it. I know DJ Stewart talked recently about that option himself, and seeing how tricky it was to declare for the draft, not necessarily be picked, and fight through G League contracts and two-way deals and that sort of thing. That's been interesting to hear about all the Duke guys that, very good college basketball players, but if they came back for another year, might have improved their professional chances. And then from the Duke perspective, we get to watch them for another year longer.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise that happens when you're, in that bubble of college basketball. And I think a lot of these guys, saw that route as, well, maybe I'm more ready than I think I am, or maybe, and I get it. You have to have an ego to be a basketball player. But I think now someone like Stewart, and obviously his time at Duke was a little bit different. There was during COVID. There was, they weren't with the student body. They didn't get the full experience. So I understand, him wanting to leave. And I don't know if necessarily it was just about him thinking he was good enough. I think it was about the atmosphere and the conditions in which he had to, live his college experience. Yeah,
no doubt about that. I mean, that tough COVID year that they were having to go through, and it's not a college experience that many people would like. But I think, Trevor Keels in recent memory, another guy who kind of after the Final Four run went for it after his freshman season and might have benefited for coming back. And in today's college game, there would have been more opportunities for you to make that money.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the G League is a grind. Ask Matt McClung, who gets flown out for the All-Star game and then back to riding on the school bus.
Yeah, right back to G League life for sure. Talking about kind of Duke stars so far this season and looking at the next level, we've been seeing a lot more kind of draft buzz and draft projections and ranking the prospects and whatnot. Duke's got 3 top 10 guys. There's Cooper Flagg already, but then Con Knipple and Kamen Malawach. We want them to still continue to make an impact this season for Duke in an effort to win the national title. But Brian, what's been standing out to you about their performances thus far this season?
I mean, I think, Obviously, we've talked about Flagg. Knippel's just a solid guy who has a lot of talent. And for as young as he is, he has a body type that's good. He reminds me of he has a Jalen Brunson type game in the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
He's also, 6'6", 6'7", and can shoot the ball, like crazy. So I think for him, the outlook as a shooter in an NBA that values shooting pretty much over anything, he's gonna have a nice place there. And for Maliq, I don't think we've even seen everything he can do, because I watched a lot of his stuff in the African League where he's taking mid-range shots, 3-point shots. I mean, he did a little of everything. Obviously, that sort of thing isn't always going to translate into the college game, but I think his best years are definitely ahead of him. And obviously, having only played for 4 years or so, he's got a lot. His ceiling is virtually limitless.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome to see how he continues to develop. We're seeing more of the outside shot a little bit for Maliq. I still think as crazy as it is, given his frame, you're still kind of learning how to use it, right? I mean, I know Corey Alexander and Jim Boeheim have been talking about that recently when they're doing the broadcasts for the Duke games, that there's still kind of a level of aggression that he can amp up a little bit.
Without a doubt. I think he'll get there. And, some of it's just, and I think some of it is his teammates finding him. I think if they can make the game easier for him, it'll be easy for him to impact the game. So I think a lot of it, I think our guards need to look for those lobs a little more than they are, and obviously you're driving with the mentality to score, but I think if you have him there, you go for that lob, because he's either going to dunk it or he's going to get fouled.
Yeah. Okay, Brian, tell me this. What is it going to take for Duke to pick up a non-conference win against Illinois? What do you view as kind of the keys to this game?
I don't worry about the offense. What I want to see them do is defend the basketball. They had a little stretch there with the Clemson game and a game after that where they were kind of subpar.
Yeah.
Shire mentioned that he wasn't really happy with their, where they were, the effort defensively, but I think they've, turned that corner. And so I think as long as they defend the basketball, I mean, Illinois, they score a lot of points.
Yeah.
But I think if Duke can get that side of the basketball down, defend and rebound the basketball like they have been the last couple of games, I think they should be able to take care of business.
Really want to see this game. I think it's going to be fun once again to get to see Duke play in Madison Square Garden against an Illinois team that's got future pros on their roster as well, something we hadn't really mentioned with the roster that they've put together there for the Illini this year. Brian, tell us about Duke Blogger and tell me ways that people can support you and your work, what they can find.
Certainly. I'm on X at Duke Blogger. I'm on Blue Sky at dukeblogger.com. You can check out the website, dukeblogger.com. So come find me. Let's talk.
It's great stuff. Go check it all out and support Brian with all the work that he does. Thank you for being here today, Brian. We'll do it again soon, okay?
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Brian Horace here with us on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you again so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen or your first watch here today. Check out Locked On ACC each and every day as well. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs tell you everything that you need to know about what's going on inside the life of the ACC. Each and every Thursday, we've got the Locked On ACC squad when our schedules permit, as many of the ACC hosts get together as possible to discuss everything going on across the conference. So go check that out. Make that your second listen here today, Locked On ACC. Also, go ahead and check out Locked On Sports today, that gives you all the latest news and headlines across the wide world of sports, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As we sort of wind down here on the show, a couple of closing thoughts about the Illinois game. And again, thank you to Brian Horace, Duke Blogger, for joining us on the show here today. As Duke gets set to take on Illinois, such an important non-conference game for our Duke Blue Devils. 6 of the first 25 games of the season for Duke were against teams in KenPom's top 25. Not very many when you compare the Blue Devils to what's going on with the rest of the sport and across the other best seeds within the league. Only one team inside the top 40 has Duke been able to play in KenPom's rankings since the first week of December. That was the Clemson game when Duke suffered a loss. Right now, Illinois is a top 25 team. According to KenPom, this will be another quad one game as Duke looks to continue to build their NCAA tournament resume. Look, let's be realistic here. Those teams in the SEC have incredible resumes with the level of competition that they're having right now. So in that regard, Duke's just not going to get as many quad one opportunities as teams within that league. And so when you've got these chances, that's when you've got to step up, get the job done, and make sure you can do that. And Duke gets that chance here this weekend as they get set to take on Illinois. The Blue Devils are 5-3 all time in the series against the Illini. Last year, both Duke and Illinois ended up in the Elite Eight. So two very good programs. Brad Underwood, the Illinois head coach, has done a good job with this team. They've got several NBA draft guys like we were talking about. Last night, they took on Wisconsin, and a big storyline followed that game where Illinois and Wisconsin did not shake hands after the fact. Greg Gart, the Wisconsin coach, Brad Underwood from Illinois came together. They spoke. Brad Underwood said his team has been very sick and just did not want to go through the handshaking spot there. A little different, but I guess I can respect the extra caution, as we know this Duke team has certainly been battling some illnesses, with Mason Gillis missing a few games. Cooper Flagg hasn't looked like himself at certain times throughout the season because he wasn't feeling very well. So I'm curious if that's going to carry over for this Illinois team as well. They've also got a player, Montez Johnson, who last week broke his wrist. He was their top shot blocker. He's going to be done for quite some time and not going to be available to play this week against Duke. So Duke without Maliq Brown in Saturday's game, Illinois without a player as well. So really excited to see how this game continues to come together, what it looks like, and it should be a whole lot of fun from Madison Square Garden. What a venue. What a cool chance we're going to have for Duke basketball coming up this weekend, 8 p.m. Eastern tip-off on Fox. So a late one for you on Saturday night to enjoy. Couple of other news and notes from around Duke athletics to wrap us up here on today's show. A shout out to the Duke baseball team who won 8-4 last night over UNCW. It was a tough weekend for the Blue Devils to open up the season, as at home they lost their series to the Cincinnati Bearcats. Duke got just one out of the 3 games that they won. Cincinnati wins it 2-1, but Duke bounced back. So now they've got a 2-2 overall record on the season. Kyle Johnson had a monster home run for the Blue Devils in the win. And the most significant thing that happened in Duke athletics and in Duke baseball last night was, with the win, head coach Chris Pollard tied Jack Coombs for the most wins all time as a Duke baseball head coach. Both of those guys have 381 names to their name as the Duke baseball coach. Jack Coombs, of course, has the field named after him on Duke's campus. Chris Pollard came over from Appalachian State. He's been doing it a long time now at Duke. He's built a really successful program. Duke loves competing in regionals and super regionals, trying to get over the hump and get to that College World Series on the finest stage. And this is still a top 25 team. Despite having a 2-2 record on the year, Duke's still viewed as the number 17 team in the country. They compete each and every year in the ACC, and I'm expecting big things from them throughout the course of the season. The Blue Devils baseball team have a 3-game series at home this weekend against Cornell. Want to give some love to Duke softball. They've got a 7-3 record to open up the year. They're ranked number 11 in the country. This past weekend, they played in a little tournament in Gainesville against the Florida Gators. They split their meetings with Florida. Florida is the number 2 team in the country. So the Gators won one. Duke was able to win one as well. And now Duke softball is going to be in Cathedral City, California this weekend to participate in the Mary Nutter Classic. They're going to be playing schools like Minnesota, BYU. Notably, they're going to take on number 4 UCLA. So that's going to be a really big test for the Blue Devils, going all the way out to California in this tournament to take on number 4 UCLA. It's not until next Thursday, February 27th, that Duke softball will have their home opener. So they're going to have about 15 games already played on their schedule before they've ever even played a game at the Duke softball stadium there on campus. So best of luck to the softball team as they head out west this upcoming weekend. And then finally, shout out to Duke men's lacrosse. They've got a 3-0 record. They're the number 7 team in the country. Baseball was 17. Men's lacrosse number 7 in the entire country. They beat St. Joseph's over the weekend by a score of 11-9, and now they get set to host Michigan this upcoming weekend on campus at Koskinen Stadium there in Durham. So should be really good stuff. A lot of really successful Duke athletics programs right now, and we give you updates on those each and every day right here on Locked On Blue Devils. We have officially surpassed 3,000 subscribers and so excited to reach that milestone. Thank you for your support and helping grow this channel. Here's to many, many more subscribers in the days and weeks to come. Continue to be a part of the Locked On Blue Devils community. Like us wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Follow us, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and written review. And then also, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.